In this video, we will see how we can initialize a structure variable. Okay, so just like we need to initialize or we need to have a value for any ordinary variable, we also need values for structure variables. Sometimes we take them from the user through the keyboard and sometimes they are initialized. So in cases where we need to initialize the variable values or the structure variable values, how are they initialized? What is the proper way of initializing a structure variable or assigning values to a structure variable? That we will see in this video. So there are basically two ways of assigning values to a variable for any variable, that is applicable for any variable, not just for structure variables. So one is at the compile time, that is when you initialize, and the other method is at the run time, that is when you ask for the user to enter the value through the keyboard. So when the user is entering the value through the keyboard, then it is using the regular mechanism, that is the scanf and printf method. Basically, scanf is used for assigning the values to the variable at runtime. But when you have to assign values at compile time, that means you are not taking values through the keyboard or you are not asking the user to give the value. You are initializing at compile time. So you are giving values to the variable at compile time. So for that, what is the right mechanism? How do you initialize a variable at compile time? So this is how you do it. This template tells you how you can initialize the structure variables. So basically, first from here till here you can see that this is the template of the structure or the structure definition as we call it. So obviously, like always, we have the struct keyword to tell the compiler that we are defining a structure. Then we give a relevant name, which is also known as the tag name of the structure. So which in this case is student underscore record. Why? Because we want to store the student records. Okay, so that is why we give a relevant name, student underscore record. Now what are those records that we want to store? That is the weight and height of the student. So here you can see that weight and height are the members. Okay, so this thing we all must be clear by now that these are the members and not the variables. So weight is one member of the structure student underscore record and height is another member of the structure student underscore record. Now the data type of weight, as you all can see, is integer. Again, the data type of height is float because the height can be in decimals. Okay. Now conventionally what we do is that after giving the list of all the members, we close the parenthesis, that is we have an ending curly braces like this over here. Then after that we give a semicolon if it is just the structure definition. Now if in case we want to declare the structure variable also, in that case we write the name of the variables. For example, here the name of the variable is student. Student is the structure variable here. Okay. So in case when we are not initializing, we are just declaring the structure variable, what we do here is that we simply write the name of the structure variable and then we end it with the semicolon. So this defines the structure as well as declares the variables and then you end it with the semicolon. But here one extra step we are adding. Till here we are very much clear that this is how you define the structure, then this is how you declare the structure variable at the time of defining the structure itself. But one more step we'll be adding to it. Now we have, apart from declaring this particular variable, we also have to assign a value or values to this particular variable. So for this we will take one extra step, that is this is how you assign values using the assignment operator. So student equals to, the first value is 70 and the second value is 180.5. So the first value 70 represents the student weight because the first member is weight. Okay, then the second value 180.5 represents the student's height because the second member is height. Now by default there is a one-to-one correspondence between the members and their initializing values. So the order in which you assign, you declare the members, in the same order the values will be given to them. So first the member weight has been declared over here. So that means the first value which is assigned to the student variable will be for the first member. Similarly, the second member is height, irrespective of whatever name you give it. The second member is height. So the second value that you assign to the student variable will be assigned to the second member, which is height in this case. Okay. Since the first member is weight, so the first value which you assign to student variable will be given to the weight member. Similarly, since height is the second member, so the second value that you assign to the variable will be given to the second member by default. So you can say that there is a one-to-one correspondence between the members and their initializing values. First value by default would be given to the first member. Second value by default would be given to the second member. So this is how you can initialize the structure variables. So basically this assigns the value. Now you know, by now you know how to use the dot operator or the member operator. So this is what actually, this is actually saying that student dot weight equals to 70. This is what it is saying. And then the second value says that student dot height equals to 180.5. So this is what it is doing. So this assigns the value 70 to the student weight and 180.5 to the student height. Okay, so there is one more method of initializing a structure variable. One method is this, which we have seen now. The other method is that first of all you define the structure. Okay, you give the structure template, you give the structure definition, that's it. So the struct, that is the keyword struct, to tell the compiler that we are defining a structure. Then the structure tag name, then obviously opening curly braces and closing curly braces, a set of curly braces within which you define the, or you give the structure members along with their data types, and then you end the structure definition with a semicolon. So this portion is just the structure definition. Okay, this is just the structure definition. Now you would initialize the structure variables separately within main. Okay, so now you would do the structure variable declaration as well as initialization separately within main. So now after you defining these structures separately within void main, you first of all declare the variable and then you assign the values simultaneously to it. So how would you do that? I told you in my previous video that if you want to declare a variable separately, that is not at the time of structure definition, then how you do that? You again write the keyword struct to tell it is a structure. Then you give the tag name to tell that this variable belongs to this particular structure, and then you give the variable name. Okay, that this is the particular variable name. So then this shows that a structure of name student record and a variable which belongs to a structure named student record. So this, till here this is the variable declaration. Okay, so this is the variable declaration. Till here what we have done is variable declaration. Now just like in case of an ordinary variable wherein you can do both the declaration and assignment at the same time, in case of structure variables also you can do the declaration and assignment at the same time. This is what you are doing. You are assigning values to the structure variable. So now after declaring the structure variable, you can assign value to it. So the first value is 53. So by default the first value would be assigned to the first member. That means student dot weight is equals to 53 here. This is what you are doing. Then the second value is 170.50. So that means by default the second value would be assigned to the second member. So that means what you are doing? You are saying student dot height equals to 170.50. 0. So these are two different ways by which you can assign values to structure variables. Just like you can declare structure variables in two different manners, you can also assign the values to the structure variables in these two different manners. That is, the first method is wherein you define the structure define the structure, or you give the structure template, as well as declare the variable and assign the value to it simultaneously. This is what you are doing here. You are giving the structure definition. You are giving the structure definition here first of all, as well as declaring the structure variable, declaring structure variable, as well as assigning value to the variable at the same time. Okay, so you are assigning values also at the same time. So one method is this, wherein you give the structure definition, you declare the structure variables as well as assign the values at the same time. And the other way is this, wherein you give the structure definition first of all, then within main separately you would be declaring the structure variable as well as assigning values to structure variables. So these are the two methods by which you can initialize the structure variables.